And the thing is, you also have to show that you have done everything.
Exactly.
That's the only way you can get a buy-in for the targets to change.
And that's why I don't exactly. That's why I also am not a fan of the idea of having discussions on like first time you're given targets or tasks where you're like, no, already day one you're just like, no, this can't be done, or you're like, no, this is beyond my scope.
Actually, show enthusiasm.
Show enthusiasm.
And sometimes it's not the fact that targets can't be reached. Sometimes you just need help. You need to just say, what is it that I can do, and be willing to ask for help. I think that's key, because when you involve the relevant stakeholders in terms of management, when you are dealing with that target, when you guys don't reach it, it seems like a collective thing. It's a team thing. Oh, we tried, but we didn't. You see, I think it will be important for someone to watch all the previous episodes that we have done. I feel like you can't just come from nowhere. And that's one of the things that I'm saying.
And understand what I'm about to say.
Then that brings me to a question, guys. My previous job, so we were managing a category. It was the smallest category out of them all.
Yeah.
And we were given a target to hit a 2 million savings in that fiscal.
Yeah.
2 million, and by April, we all saw that this thing's not going to happen. We are not going to hit there were many reasons why we weren't going to hit that 2 million. But I remember thinking at that time, I wish I could speak up about this in a way that shows that we are really doing what we can, the best that we can, but we're not going to meet this target. Before we even get to the end of October, and now it's year-end review, and now I'm coming for the first time saying, we're actually not going to meet this target.
Yeah.
So how do I navigate a situation where there's an expectation here? I know probably bonuses are measured on these things.
Yeah.
I am not going to meet this thing.
Yeah, targets have to be managed, because I think if you ask even the guys in sales and insurance, that's their biggest gripe, because some of the targets are unrealistic.
Yes.
So you will find that even in the law they say, was there the way they targets in place, and how reasonable are the targets. So a target shouldn't be something that is not possible. It shouldn't be a mission impossible. It should be something that is realistic when hard work and effort and is put in, diligence is put in, then you should be able to meet the target. So you will find that that's another thing.
Shouldn't be thumbsucked.
Yes.
Ideally.
Yes.
Especially if something is not done for the first time.
Yes.
It should be, past data should be used to kind of put targets in place.
Yes.
Determine targets.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people just do targets, but realistic targets should be based on data.
Yeah.
We're talking about a situation where you are given a target.
Yeah.
And you see you're not going to meet it. How do we go about it?
Yeah, I think communication. I think that's when the target has don't wait for the target to for this thing to escalate and people are just ignoring the big elephant in the room. So you just really
if it's a year target, by quarter one, you are not quarter way through the target. It's already a flag. And unless, I guess some things are based on seasonality or whatever, but you can check yourself, last year, this time, there are a lot of things you can see to see, I'm actually not going to meet this target. So it's about being realistic, being honest, and targets can always be adjusted. They've been adjusted so many times. They're always adjusted.
I think that's key. I think when you hit the first quarter, have serious conversations to say, listen, and the thing is, you also have to show that you have done everything.
Exactly.
That's the only way you can get a buy-in for the targets to change.
And that's why I don't exactly. That's why I also am not a fan of the idea of having discussions on first time you're given targets or tasks where you're like, no, already day one you're just like, no, this can't be done, or you're like, no, this is beyond my scope.
Actually, show enthusiasm.
Show enthusiasm. Do what you need to do.
Show you're excited.
Quarter way through, are like, okay, this is what I've done, this is the effort I've put in, this is what it has yielded, then the person can see that, okay, they can be on the same page as you, and they can just see you're not being difficult, and you're looking at things. Defensive as well. So from set on go, like you're just like, no, it's not. Everything is like, so no, we can't do this. No, this is not. No, that's not. Yeah, that's not what's needed.
And sometimes it's not the fact that targets can't be reached. Sometimes you just need help. You need to just say, what is it that I can do, and be willing to ask for help. I think that's key, because when you involve the relevant stakeholders in terms of management, when you are dealing with that target, when you guys don't reach it, it seems like a collective thing. It's a team thing. Oh, we tried, but we didn't. And you will find people can say, we are still giving out bonuses because we are giving you for effort. You did something. There was something that you were doing.
They're on your side.
They're on your side. But don't. Many a times people with targets, they feel like they've just been dumped a target, so it's me against them, And so I think always, I wanted to also say what Pauls was saying is to say, the first time where we don't wait for like performance meetings to be having to say these targets are not working.
Because now it's like you're defending yourself.
Now you're being defensive. But you've already seen.
I love that.
You see,
it's the wrong
performance meetings are the worst times to complain. That's not the time for you to complain. Performance meetings are to measure what you have been doing.
All along.
The times to complain are before. Even when you are doing well, take advantages where they are giving you brownie points, when you have slayed in the game. You say, but you know what, this target, what do you think? What is it that you think we can do? At least those are better opportunities. But when they are doing a performance review after the first quarter, then you say these targets don't work. They'll ask, what have you been doing? So it then creates that issue that you don't want to take responsibility. So I think
suddenly they don't work.
Suddenly they don't want to work.
Definitely performance reviews are a daunting experience for many people. But another thing that is very daunting for people is mistakes. Just going about like dealing with mistakes. How does one deal with a mistake? Because let's talk about that diligent employee who is putting in their effort. They're really trying. They're going the extra mile. They're doing what they can to meet that expectation, etc., etc. But you're not perfect, and I think it's a very tough thing to come to accept for many people, that you're going to make mistakes in your role, right? How does one go about dealing with those mistakes? In the sense of like owning up to those mistakes, but also not being written off as that person that made that mistake. Because I have a friend, for example, who started working in a law firm this year, and he was just like, the cancel culture in corporate is actually insane. You will be remembered for the mistake that you have made, and so
which pals? That one, the one that put the extra zero on the net profit.
And you're doing your best. You're absolutely trying what you possibly can, but now you have to choose between being accountable or being known as that person that made that mistake.
So basically, and those impressions stick.
And those impressions stick. Exactly. Once they know you as a disaster person,
and all of a sudden you're worked out of things. You're not given tasks anymore. Your peers are moving forward. They're growing in their careers, and you're here kind of begging for work at some point. How does one truly, in a wise way, navigate through that in corporate?
Yeah, I think what. I think I've got a different view to it. The biggest challenge is not really the mistake, but it's the attitude after the mistake. I think the biggest challenge that I've seen is someone who does a lot of consultations is we have a lot of perfectionists. People who
I shall keep quiet.
Who struggle.
You're part of this category.
People who struggle with when they make mistakes, and most of these young people, they fall apart. They literally fall apart when they do mistakes, and that affects them even going forward. People want to do everything right, and that's the most important thing in corporate. You need to make room to say you're gonna make mistakes, and you need to own it. I think that's really, really key. The problem with our generation is we have people who think they know, and the challenge with people who think they know and who are perfectionists, even when it's so clear that they have done something wrong, they don't want to own it.
They'll still try to run circles around.
They'll still,
yes.
So I think from my experience, I don't think when you make a first mistake, you're just going to trend in the business and you're going to say, this is this person. It's when you have this repetitive attitude where you keep on making that, they call it negligence, where you keep on making the same mistakes because you have not taken time to really say, I might be struggling with numbers.
Okay.
So you have to own it and allow the help. I don't think people would want you to put, extra zeros on to pay a client. No one will set you up for failure, but I think you have to realize at some point, I'm gonna, do well in some spaces, and I'm not gonna do well in some spaces. But it's important that you are diligent in spaces that do matter.
Yeah. In spaces that are
spaces that do matter, because if you make mistakes
in
critical spaces, man, they are showing you the door.
Yeah.
So that's very key, and I think you just have to present yourself. It takes a little bit of humility when you're working in corporate. Present yourself not as this, rainmaker. Yeah, present yourself in a very sober manner as someone who says, they make room for error, because when the mighty have fallen, people will take advantage. You see, that's the issue.
I've heard that quote so many times in corporate. How the mighty have fallen.
Oh my goodness!
But if you put yourself on a pedestal, when you fall, people are not gonna pick you up.
So it's more so the pedestal thing then. If I make a mistake and I'm on a pedestal, of course
that's when you'll be cancelled.
Then I'll be cancelled because they were waiting for the one opportunity.
Yeah.
But if I just generally, I'm very sober, I'm very humble. People will even help you through that mistake.
Yes, they will help you.
Yeah.
Finance will not expose you. But if you are this person on a high horse,
that everyone has been waiting.
Literally, they've been waiting for that position. Because, that's the thing. When you are working, you're going to work. I know the SMS comes into your bank account on your own, but you are working with people. Your success is determined. Yes.
If you're a team player, it's really hard to be singled out.
Sure.
Even when you do your work as a team player, people are always involved. Not that they do your work, but they're always involved. You're always
even your manager.
Off ideas. Your manager knows this is how I've done it. What do you think? It's like being a team player is like being part of a herd. It's hard to be just devoured or something like that. It's and not just with your work, but as a person. When you're a team player, people kind of come together for you as well and cover you, and it's just hard to be singled out as a team player. But if you want to take lead, which is not wrong, but if you want to be that person there's this culture in corporate which I don't understand sometimes. So where people where you want to stand out, but at the cost of bringing everyone down. People are also waiting for your
downfall when you're like that.
Sure. To your point, then what I'm seeing is if you are willing to share your glory,
come on,
they'll be happy to share
your losses with you. That's good. That's good.
You will see situations where managers are willing to take your fault is theirs. Where they say, no, I'm the one who did it. Sorry, it's my fault.
And that I did it.
Yes, because you have really presented yourself to be a team player and someone who is really team players will always go far.
Team players always go far.
They might not know everything, but they will always go far. Because they ride on the strength of the team. You see, so that's
And sometimes we think you can't display leadership while being a team player. I don't know where that comes in. But you can't display leadership and be a team player.
And be a team player, yes.
So I guess that's a topic for another day, but it's not either or. It's like you can be both.
You can literally be both, I think that's why you find that even when you look at excos, executive personnel, these are people who are team players. It's not me. They have an ability to gather gifts and be able to train people and be able to work. So it's very important that know that you need people, you need the community that you find yourself. And when things are difficult, people will be able to, to vouch for you.
Yeah.
But that's why I've seen a lot of people when you are this person who is just self-centered. I've seen even when you ask the client, let's say you are going for a hearing and they're going whether to court or whatever, you ask them to say,
a client who's been dismissed.
Yeah, let's say a client has been dismissed for poor work performance or whatever misconduct, whatever situation it might be. You find that team players have people who are willing to testify on their behalf. But non-team players, no one is willing. They are actually coming to testify against you. You see, so that's very key. And even in disciplinary hearings, you find that people are willing to come and give a good testimony about you when you're a team player. But if you're not a team player, no one is willing to give you inside information. No one is willing to give you loopholes. I've had clients who are so good with relationships that the HR was telling them behind the scenes to say, listen, you're going to say 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's going to be our loophole because you have created a rapport with people. So even when you make mistakes, you will know definitely that you have people who are going to be standing in your back. Yeah.
So I've got a question for you then, Tate. Do you think it's a red flag if someone is constantly the one who has all these difficult people that they're working with? If you find yourself in that position where you just can't get along with your team. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter which company you're in. I mean, for some reason, your team is just...
What's the common denominator? Myself.
So would we say that's a red flag?
Is that
a red flag? Or do you feel some people just constantly find themselves in difficult working environments?
People are the same everywhere, but you take yourself everywhere.
Yeah. You take yourself everywhere.
You see, you take yourself everywhere and you still find yourself in those same situations. I mean, you can take someone from here to Dubai and they still have issues.
Same issues.
From one company to another,
the next
same
company.
issues.
There's always something wrong. And one of them always the victim.
Yes.
So then now I'm wondering, and I saw this in my previous organization, there was this thing internally of managing people out. So how they handle this non-performance, they don't necessarily fire them. Like, hey, you're fired or whatnot. And I think probably because the law protects a lot. But they would have a term, go to this group where I'm managing them out. And now you would hear stuff in the corridors. So what are some of the things that me, as the employee in that situation, I've made so many mistakes. I'm constantly to get a grip on the relationships in the team. How can I see, or what are some of the things maybe that would lead someone to that position of being managed out? And how do I see that? We should be here. I need to move my way out of here. It's over for me. In this place. Yes, I think so.
That's quite an interesting question. I think sometimes, to be honest, if you find yourself that you are being managed out, I think sometimes you just have to concede.
It's the best thing you can do.
Sometimes you just have to say, listen, I think we have come to that end of the road. Let me find another space where you can start on a clean slate. But if you ever need help with managing issues out, you can highlight your boy. I'll be willing to. Me and my team will be willing to assist you. But I think you just have to be honest when you see that, especially the whole team, the executives and everyone. I think you just have to have honest conversations. And I mean, sometimes if you have seen it, just be humble. Just go there and say, guys, I can see, things are not working. Is there anything that you can do for me? I'm willing to take a salary cut. I'm willing to take a demotion. That's what people don't want to hear. But sometimes you just have to be, because sometimes I think most employers want you to do well. They want the business to do well. So when you're doing well, the business is doing well. I don't think most employers, unless there's organizational politics, they just want the business not to do well. But if sometimes you are not cutting it, you just have to agree and accept. Some people, when you look at their cases, you literally can tell, to say, honey, you have no idea what you're doing. You don't even understand the nature of the game. And the challenge that we have with a lot of young people is they are, spicing up the CV. I don't know. They put a lot,
to the point
where they're lying, and you're saying, honey, you don't understand this, because many a times they will test you. They're gonna test you, and they see that you're out of depth in terms of the terms and everything. You're drowning. You are in deep waters, and they can really tell it's not gonna work. So sometimes you just have to. Work on that. But the issue of people who are trying to manage you out when you are doing well, that's a different story for another day, because you can literally be able to show, like what we have been saying, with your evidence, with everything, to show that, you know what you're doing, and it can be very difficult. I've noticed people who know what they're doing, it's very difficult to use, to manage them out in terms of performance, because when you put those KPIs, they're going to blow them out of the water.
But would you encourage them to stay? Because if I'm in a situation where Bowles is trying to manage me out, and it's almost like we're doing now this back and forth, I'm proving I can do my job, and maybe I can. Would you encourage me to still stay in that space?
No.
I think it depends what you want.
Okay.
I don't know. Some people at this point, it depends why you're there. It depends what you want. It depends on the situation. We prioritize different things. Also, sometimes maybe someone prioritizes a healthy working environment, good relationships. So that wouldn't be the space for you. You definitely have to find another healthy space.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's a lot that's at stake. Maybe you're in the succession plan. You're trying to be put up for leadership and stuff. Now you can't let someone else work you out of what's at stake, out of what you could potentially gain. So maybe depending on how much you want
have to put on your gloves on.
Boxing
gloves on and beat another case. I think it really depends, and sometimes it depends who you're dealing with. Sometimes it really is sometimes it genuinely is a difficult person, and people know that. So sometimes it's a matter of time before they themselves are managed out. So you need to be also familiar with the politics in the organization. You need to, so you kind of need to it's like, we always, like someone told me this, I once worked with someone who used to be in HR and then moved over to business, and they'd always advise me this, because I think it's something I'd struggle with sometimes. He'd always say, Palesa, play the game, not the person. So sometimes just know the game you're playing, what the end goal is. So don't be too focused on the person. Play your game in a way that you're not playing the person. Your whole focus is your whole living, your whole coming to work and attitude and mood is about proving to this person. So it's just knowing why you're there, basically. Like, outside of this person, why am I here? Okay, if what I'm here for is not working, then I can leave. But if what I'm here for is still there on the table, I'm gonna stay and get it. So
come on,
that's so good.
Dragon flare.
And on the point of having just a difficult boss, for example, would your advice be the same then if you just have a difficult boss? Unreasonable. You tried everything you possibly can. In terms of KPI, it's very evident that you are meeting your KPIs. But unlike what Tate was advising, I guess you just don't click with your boss like that. The expectation, the relationship is not where it should be, right? How do you deal with that? Would you advise the same thing? Is it just a matter of playing the game and not the person, prioritizing that as opposed to the healthy environment? How does one deal with that?
This is line manager.
Line managers, colleagues.
For me, I think the biggest challenge is you have to know yourself in terms of your breaking points. You have to really know what you can handle. I think with some people really handle the scandal well. They are able to.
It actually excites them. It's like drama.
It's a piece of cake for them. It doesn't, you shake them anything. They actually okay about it, and they are willing to go for the long run. But a lot of majority of people, they struggle. They struggle. I think for me, it's something you really need to see yourself in terms of your ability to handle adversity, because I think that's key. You need to know your breaking points, and because some, they handle the scandal very well. They don't have issues.
It actually excites them.
They are willing to take it as far as Kilimanjaro. They are willing to fight. They get excited, when these things happen. So it's, and some people have done well in that space. But I think a lot of young people, from what I've seen in terms of these issues where they're being victimized and targeted, they struggle a lot. And I've seen that even in they end up being booked, in these psychiatric wellness centers. I mean, they're getting full by the day, and it really affects their confidence to come back into the game again and look for alternative employment. So I would really suggest that if something is really pressing you, that it affects your capabilities and your capacity. Because many times you end up making mistakes and it's not going to work out. Think of an exit plan. Don't just resign.
Never. Not just resign.
Have an exit plan. Have an exit plan. And
that's a good one.
So that's I wish I knew that.
Never just resign.
Never just resign.
Have a plan.
So I think that's definitely something that you can look at. So guys.
I mean, if you have your money right, you can just resign.
Yes, when you've got your Benjamins.
When your Benjamins are in order.
Yes, when your Benjamins are in order, you can just drop the laptop in the bag.
Say, I'm out of here.
Hasta la vista. Yes. So guys, thank you so much, man. We had a nice time. Thank you so much, pals, for having us and the crew in the background. So guys, please remember to like, share, subscribe, man. Podcast Uncut with Tate. So guys, from me and the crew, until we meet again next week, is gonna be powerful. We're going to take this gear to the next level, so it's going to be powerful,
is
man.
Is it a surprise?
Yes, it is a surprise. Please check us out next week. From me and the crew. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.